Holy moly, we are back again. Union Smack, welcome everyone to our monthly NXT UK Omnibus review. I am of course the Maniac Matt Tennant in the chair once again. Travis couldn't be here with us. Scheduling conflicts have separated us once again, but we will be back together as we were on our State of WWE address, which you can hear on the channel now. We'll be back together again next time for a retro review. We haven't decided which one it will be yet, but watch our Twitters and we will let you know in due course. Speaking of Twitter, you can find me as always at the Perfect Tenant. You can find Travis at the Hibiki TMD, and you can buy our merchandise, the official Union Smack shirt, the official Hibiki TMD shirt, the official Reset Button shirt, all at unionsmack.bigcartel.com, and you can buy my Undertaker book, A Trip Down Death Valley, from completelynovel.com. So just hop over there and everything you need is there for the summer. We'll be adding a few more items as well as the weeks roll along. We will start this week, as we always do, every week. We start with the news. And thankfully, this time there is some, because last Omnibus edition, there was absolutely nothing, and it quickened up the episode, I'm sure, but we always like a bit of news here. So, first off, we're going to start on a sad note, and it seems that Union Smack has returned to form, because we are starting off with some tragic news of a passing. If you're a British wrestling fan, I'm sure you've all heard that on Wednesday, June the 19th, Adrian Lionheart McCallum sadly passed away at 36 years old. If you didn't know Lionheart, I'm sure you did. If you were a fan of any British wrestling whatsoever, then I'm sure you'd seen him in action. World of Sport recently, he competed on. But he was most known for his time in ICW, a hero and a legend there. And he held 20 titles at 36 years old. He was a 20-time champion, including reigns as ICW World Heavyweight Champion, ICW 0G Champion, NWA Scottish Heavyweight Champion. 3 times he held that. And 3-time Preston City Wrestling Heavyweight Champion, as well as 1 PW Heavyweight Champion, to name a few. Though the details of his death are still guarded, and I don't blame them. It is thought that he took his own life after a bout of depression. Now, it's not clear why, but according to the newspapers, so take this with a pinch of salt, obviously, because the newspapers print things for the sake of printing things, as do the internet. I wouldn't believe the date in the British newspapers these days. However, more than one source has reported that his bout of depression was caused by the fact that he failed to save a teenage girl from a burning house in January. I don't know all the details, but I know he managed to save the boyfriend, but sadly the girl perished, and it was just something that haunted him. It haunted him for months and months and months, and it appears, don't take my word for it that this was the cause, but it appears that it finally took its toll. And it's a sad, sad case of affairs. It's a sad state to be in, and I think mental illness and awareness of the subject should be taken much more seriously to prevent things like this. I've heard from numerous people, from wrestlers who knew him, who loved him, who were his friends, who were having dinner with him, days before this tragic incident, that they didn't know anything was wrong, they didn't see anything was wrong. So the signs aren't always on the surface. Mental health, depression, it's often buried away deep beneath. So I think it's about time we took these things more seriously. Preston City Wrestling will be holding a tribute show for Lionheart in the coming days. That will feature a host of NXT UK talent, and our condolences here at Union Smack from myself and Travis to Lionheart's family. And rest in peace, Lionheart. You'll be very, very sadly missed. Moving on a lighter note now, 2 sort of quick bits of news here. It has come to light, reported by Dave Meltzer. Obviously, me and Travis have had our issues with Dave Meltzer and some of the things he's been saying this past week. We will leave them alone and move straight onto this, though. He has reported that the Irish star Session Moth Martina is expected to sign with NXT UK shortly. This comes after she impressed thoroughly, I hear. She was one of the standout stars at the recent tryouts at the UK Performance Centre. And obviously, if you don't know her, she's a star of over-the-top wrestling. She's appeared in Progress. She's appeared on almost every independent company you can think of. So if you've not seen her in action, then you are in for a treat. And we are just awaiting the news that she has signed now. It's expected within the next few days. Toni Storm will defend the NXT UK Women's Championship against Piper Niven at ICW Shug's Hoose Party on July the 28th. That is ICW's next pay-per-view. It's one of their biggest pay-per-views of the year. And I like this news. I like the fact that they're now doing with the Women's Championship what they did with the United Kingdom Championship. That they're letting Toni Storm go out beyond the NXT UK boundaries and defend it elsewhere to get eyes on it. Because let's be honest, the reign has been absolutely deplorable. Me and Travis discussed this before we came on air for our WWE State of Address. It's been a very uneventful reign for Toni Storm, and I'm surprised because when they put the belt on her, I feel like they hoped she would be the female Pete Dunne, that she would inspire, people to come to the brand, especially with her name value. But that just hasn't happened, and instead of being the next Pete Dunne, she's still Toni Storm from the day before she won the title at TakeOver. The reign's done nothing, the reign has meant nothing, and the sooner they get this title off of her, the better. If it doesn't happen at Shug's Hoose Party, it's almost certainly going to go to Kaylee Ray at TakeOver. Now, this bit of news surprised me, actually, because Piper Niven is the bigger name. I would have kept Piper Niven to dethrone Toni Storm at TakeOver, and I would have had Kaylee Ray, who is a massive ICW star anyway, cash in her title shot in ICW, take the title in front of a home crowd, which would be a massive, massive moment for ICW and the fans in attendance on July the 28th. And then we could have built towards a Piper Niven, Kaylee Ray feud at NXT TakeOver Cardiff. That's not what they're doing. There's every chance that these two will fight again in Cardiff if Kaylee Ray cashes in her shot in Plymouth. But as it stands now, it's looking like Toni Storm versus Kaylee Ray at NXT TakeOver Cardiff on August the 31st, which Union Smack will be attending. We will be doing a vlog, and this time I vow not to lose most of the footage. The last piece of news I have for you is that, and before I say it, I'm going to give you a little time to fast forward, because this next bit of news contains some spoilers for the next few weeks of American NXT television. So if you don't want to know what happened, if you want the surprise of what's to come, then fast forward now. I'll stay silent for 3 seconds, and then I'll carry on. You've been warned. So if you choose to listen, don't come at me. So here we go. 3 seconds of silence, and then I'm going to carry on. Okay, so last week NXT held their last set of tapings before NXT TakeOver Toronto in August. They held them at the same time as the NXT UK tapings at the Download Festival. And Pete Dunne made what many believe is his official NXT debut as a full-time roster member. Now, he's been in NXT before. He's fought Ricochet, Adam Cole. He's been at War Games. He obviously lost the title to Walter at TakeOver New York. Still hurts. It still hurts. But there's been much talk since he lost the title, since April, that Pete Dunne's time was coming to an end in NXT UK, that he'd be moved either to NXT or the main roster, and now it appears we've got our answer of where he's going. He interrupted a segment between Roderick Strong and the Velveteen Dream, NXT North American Champion, of course, and he challenged Dream for the North American Championship, which is expected to take place at TakeOver Toronto. We have no word yet on whether Roderick Strong will be added, making it a triple threat match. I assume that will be the case. But Pete Dunne then went on to beat Roderick Strong in a singles match later in the tapings, and is almost a surefire pick to be the next North American champion. I have heard more than one rumour, and of course it's a rumour, so take it with a pinch of salt, that Velveteen Dream will be moving to the main roster after SummerSlam, especially with Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff now executive creative directors. So it seems only right that you bring Pete Dunne up and you put the North American title on him immediately. You don't bring a man like Pete Dunne up to lose and to tread water in the mid-card. If you're not going to instantly insert him as one of the dominant forces on the brand, then you don't bring him up at all. With that said, he will probably wrestle his last match for NXT UK at TakeOver Cardiff. Now Travis Banks has had his shot against Walter. I foresee Walter versus Pete Dunne 3. Loser leaves NXT UK match. And that will be the end for Pete Dunne here. I've been saying it for ages. It's the only logical way to see him out. Give him one final attempt to win back the title. And then that's him off. It has to be that way. He has to go in the main event. He's been the main event since he won the title in 2017, and he has to leave in the main event. He did miss the download tapings of NXT UK, so for the next 3 weeks, if you're expecting to see Pete Dunne in action, you will be sorely disappointed he wasn't there. However, he did fly back to participate in one tiny angle on the final day of the Download Festival tapings. I will not spoil that for you. It will be coming in the next 3 weeks. So, with all the news done, and in record time too, I'm quite impressed with that. I will take a break, I will have a drink, refresh my voice, and then I will be back to begin our first 2 episodes of a 4-episode Omnibus, NXT UK, episodes 46 to 49. And while I go and take a little sip of a refreshment, I will leave you in the capable hands of the former WWE United Kingdom champion, and because everyone else is jumping on the bandwagon, the greatest wrestler in the world, the Bruiserweight, Pete Dunne.
I'm the Bruiserweight Pete Dunne, and you're listening to the Union Smack podcast.
I am refreshed, we are back, we are ready for a mammoth NXT UK Omnibus review. But before we get into that, I should say that the British summertime is upon us. My hay fever is kicking in, my eyes are itching as I speak. So if I miss something, or I get something wrong, then please bear in mind that my eyes are very sore, they're quite blurred, and I will do my best to fill you in as possible. NXT UK Episode 46 came to you once again from Coventry, the Coventry Sky Dome, and was the penultimate episode to air from that venue before we switched to the Download Festival in episode 48, coming your way a little bit later. We began with a video package for the Fatal 4-Way match, featuring Travis Banks, featuring Jordan Devlin, Dave Mastiff and Joe Coffey. All 4 men won qualifiers in previous weeks. You can go back and see how they won them and against who in our previous Omnibus editions of NXT UK. This featured a little line from all of them, basically saying they were all going to be the number one contender to the United Kingdom Championship, blah de blah de blah, and it was very nicely done. One thing with NXT UK video packages is they're all very well narrated, written and put together. You can't say that for the main roster often, but they're working off the NXT mentality here, and everything should be and usually is flawless. First match, the first cab out of the rank, The Hunt versus Saxon Huxley and Tyson T-Bone. This was a nothing match, really. Huxley and T-Bone haven't been seen for a long time. They're the most generic team on the roster, as far as I'm concerned. There's just nothing to them. They exist for the sake of putting everyone they face over. Which is why I found this match a little annoying, because for some reason, instead of having the Hunt just come out the blocks and beat Huxley and T-Bone, Wild Boar had to sell for them for what seemed like a long time. You know, when you're trying to get a team like the Hunt over, then they should come out of the blocks against people like Huxley and T-Bone, who are nobodies on the roster and mean nothing to the company, and squash them in a minute. That's how you get the Hunt over, as a fearsome team. You know, two people to be reckoned with. But they didn't do that here. They sort of dragged this out. It made it feel like just a normal match. I didn't like the fact that the Hunt struggled to beat them for a while. And it took away from the Hunt's image and made them look ordinary. Thankfully, Wild Boar got the tag to Primate J Melrose, and Melrose hasn't been the star of the team for a while. Since they've been together, it's always been Hitchman, but now they're doing the Mustache Mountain thing, where one is the punch bag, one is the hot tag, and I think they've got it right here, because Melrose is a good hot tag. A ball of fire when he came in. He made short work of Saxon Huxley. There was a pop-up German here, which was lovely, and Primate pinned Saxon Huxley after a double flying headbutt, which they still don't have a name for either of their finishing moves. The pop-up Grand Amplitude or the double flying headbutt. I wish they would give these moves a name. This gets the Hunt back on track after jobbing out to almost everyone. And after the match, they were attacked by Mark Coffey and Wolfgang of Gallus, rammed them into the tables, and then they yelled at the announcers that they're very good at being violent. Kaylee Ray versus Casey Owens was the next match on the card, and there's enough praise going around for Kaylee Ray at the minute, and rightly so. She's a great wrestler, she's a good talent, technically sound, but I'd just like to take a minute here to point out how scary it is that Casey Owens, and if you've not seen her, look her up on Google, she looks so much like Tessa Blanchard that it could be Tessa. It could be Tessa doing a bit of jobbing work for someone as big as her in the wrestling world. Either that or they were twins separated at birth. If you don't believe me, go and have a look at her. Travis will put a picture of her up now. Basic match doesn't last very long. Owens tries to get the better of Kaylee Ray, rolls her up, rope assist armbar. There's chance of IC dub, because obviously we're in Glasgow, not in Coventry, as I said at the beginning of the episode. Forgive me for that error, that little faux pas, that mistakey doodle. I've still got Coventry on the mind because they were such good shows, and let's be honest, the layout from Coventry to Glasgow was pretty much identical. But this was definitely Glasgow, not Coventry. You don't need to point that out down in the comments. I've realised my little mishap. So, big IC dub chance for the city, the hometown of ICW, and Kaylee Ray again playing the ruthless heel. She slips out of everything, hard shots, arm work, all looks good, flawless, and crescent kick, two of them actually, and a gory bomb, or Widow's Peak as Nigel McGuinness keeps calling it, for the win. It should have been shorter. Casey Owens' enhancement, she shouldn't have got as much in as she did. However, this was just an exhibition for Kaylee Ray as she moves onwards and upwards to the NXT UK Women's Championship. We get an Imperium video package, which makes them look formidable. They all talk, which it's a mistake, but I'll get into that later on. It takes in the British Strong Style feud and basically sets up the 6-man tag team match, which will be the main event of episode 47. Again, coming your way very, very shortly. We see highlights of Jazzy Gabbert's debut, Killer Kelly leaving Xia Brookside to take a pasting from several weeks prior. This is building up the Xia Brookside versus Ginny versus Jazzy Gabbert feud, which thus far, thumbs up, very well handled. And then it takes us backstage to Ginny and Jazzy Gabbert, who are arriving at the arena. Radzi, the plague of NXT UK, the scourge of British professional wrestling, approaches them and asks Ginny how the pairing came together. Ginny basically tells him that she's a smart woman and she knew after Takeover Blackpool, after Jazzy Gabbert appeared in the audience, that she would either have to fight Jazzy Gabbert or befriend her. I would befriend her too. She looks like she could rip my cock and balls off and stuff them down my own throat. Throughout this entire segment, Jazzy looked like she just wanted to chew through a metal door and spit it out again. The look, the power, everything about Jazzy Gabbert, despite what you think of her wrestling ability, works for her. She's the big dominant monster, and me and Travis did talk a bit about Ginny and Jazzy Gabbert and the relationship on our State of WWE address, so do go back and listen to that for more on this team. Grizzled young veterans are out, which I greatly appreciate these massively long promos when I'm writing a book documenting the first year of NXT in all its detail, and I have to keep stopping the recording every 3 or 4 seconds just to get what they say word for word. Please, Triple H, please can I have some more of these? I love spending 2 hours of my time watching a 58-minute program. I love it. It's wonderful. It's the basic stuff here from Gibson and Drake, mostly Gibson. They announced that they are being forced to defend the NXT UK Tag Team Championships at the Download Festival. They say they resent having to defend them against a bunch of sweaty goths, which brings a chant of sweaty goths from an absolutely lively Glasgow crowd. And it's more of the same. They demand to be treated with respect, and job done. I've said enough about the Grizzled Young Veterans and Zach Gibson's promos to last a lifetime. I do strongly believe that if not Jordan Devlin, if not Travis Banks, then James Drake is the next United Kingdom champion. I'm not sure how it's going to work. Walter isn't turning face anytime soon. Gibson won't work as a face. Maybe he'll work, on the face-heel divide. You're never sure which one he is. But I truly believe that Zach Gibson is the future of the company after Walter, because they're not holding on to them tag team titles very much longer. I would just like to mention here, we recorded the inaugural Takeover review, which didn't come out, and Travis ended up doing it on his own. But during that, we talked about Nigel McGuinness and how great he was. For me, he's the best announcer in WWE today, and that's above Mauro Ranallo. I know, but there's just something about the way he calls matches, the things he does. It's like when Pete Dunne lost the title at TakeOver New York to Walter. He made that match and that ending so much more tragic than it was, just by calling the spots. Just by shouting to Pete Dunne as he was powerbombed off the top rope, "What have you done?" It was emotional. He brings you in, he draws you in, and he keeps you there. and they've got a gem in Nigel McGuinness. The reason I'm mentioning Nigel McGuinness is because the grizzled young veterans called Vic Joseph an absolute whelk at the beginning of the promo, and when it was done, the camera switched back to Nigel McGuinness and Vic Joseph, who were live in the arena, the Brayhead Arena, and Nigel McGuinness's facial expressions were absolutely marvellous. He was mocking Vic Joseph without words, and that takes a lot of skill. So, God bless you, Nigel. And I have to say that there has been some talk on Twitter this week that maybe Nigel McGuinness should be Pete Dunne's final opponent in NXT UK. Take my money. I would love to see that. Fatal 4-way main event time. Travis Banks, Jordan Devlin, Joe Coffey, Dave Mastiff. As I said earlier in the review, each man earned their spot here by going through qualifiers, and this was a very, very good main event. There was too much to mention all of it here, but some of the highlights were Banks and Jordan Devlin straight at it from the start, renewing their rivalry from Coventry. See why I've got Coventry on the brain, because a lot of this just bleeds into each other. Mastiff and Joe Coffey, they get into a test of strength. I'll have more on them later, and my beliefs of where they're going heading into August. Mastiff and Coffey take each other out on the outside with crossbodies. Jordan Devlin and Travis Banks, team up for a fleeting second. Double suicide dives to both of the big men. Very good, very logical. There's a nice spot here where Joe Coffey is sat in the corner and Travis Banks just kicks Jordan Devlin's leg out from underneath him and sends him headfirst into Joe Coffey's crotch. That is, you have to see that to believe that. Mastiff's German on Jordan Devlin almost breaks his neck. There's a Joe Coffey power slam on Dave Mastiff, which looks great. Everybody here gets a chance to shine. Everything flows perfectly, and this is the way you do a multi-man match when all four men are stars. You give them ample enough time to get all of their stuff in, all of their tricks, and everybody looks good in defeat. As this match carried on towards its finale, lovely, lovely sequence between Banks and Devlin, which led into a standing Spanish fly. Coffey took himself out of the match with a all the best for the bells on Mastiff, which took both men over the top rope. And Travis Banks hits a slice of heaven and a Kiwi crusher, which again nearly breaks Jordan Devlin's neck. Somebody's got it in for Jordan Devlin for the victory. Travis Banks is your winner. Travis Banks is your number one contender. It's a very, very nice slice of revenge for the Kiwi Buzzsaw after Jordan Devlin put him through a table in their Falls Count Anywhere match in Coventry with the Spanish Fly. And yes, it lacked urgency in places, but for me, this is the Travis Banks we should have gotten from the beginning. So that was NXT UK episode 46. Good episode, I thoroughly recommend it. The first match was enhancement talent, the second match was basically more of the same, but it's all worth it for the fatal 4-way match. And plus you get a few other extras thrown in as well, like a great Grizzled Young Veterans promo, as much as I complain about writing about it. And there's some other stuff that sets up episodes to come. NXT UK episode 47 begins with a video package for British Strong Style versus Imperium, which will be our main event of the episode. It takes in everything that happened, beginning with British Strong Style's ascent at Royal Albert Hall, their dominance over the NXT UK roster, the formation of Imperium, and then everything from the past few weeks as the factions went to war. Again, very well done. There's only so many ways I can say it and keep saying it about the video packages in NXT UK. They really draw you in and make you want to sit there until the main event. Zaya Brookside and Isla Dawn versus Ginny and Jazzy Gabbert. Yep, this happened. And if you'll remember, it was Isla Dawn who extended the olive branch of friendship to Brookside several weeks ago. There's no life. Can I just say before we get into this match, there's no life in Isla Dawn and Xia Brookside as partners. This is purely something to continue Xia Brookside's push up the ladder and just to get Isla Dawn on television. Unfortunately, Dawn she's petered out a lot. Lack of exposure, lack of storyline and investment. She's just become another face on the roster, and that's a shame because she had a lot of talent. And this is coming from someone who couldn't stand her in November. There's no reaction for Xia Brookside, unfortunately. However, on the plus side, Isla Dawn is showing a growing understanding of the technical aspect of professional wrestling, and she did some great arm work on Ginny. The match itself, it's standard. It's what you'd expect. This is more, not so much to advance the feud between Xia Brookside and Ginny, but more to put a spotlight and highlight the relationship and the sort of thing we can expect from Ginny and Jazzy Gabert as a team, as a duo, as bodyguard and wrestler. Ginny plays the rich and titled little girl who can't really do much and obviously runs to Jazzy Gabert to bail her out. There's a nice little sequence between Brookside and Gabert here where Gabert turns a head scissors into a powerbomb. Brookside reverses it into a sunset flip and Gabert then counters her with a nice throw into the corner. Very good work from both women. Isla Dawn brings Jazzy Gabert to a knee with a running knee strike. Very well done. However, she is displaying the same timing issues that she's had for a while now. So whatever they're doing with her in the PC, I think it needs to be done more and obviously on a daily basis because Isla Dawn's timing, it really needs some work. Match ends when Gabert hits Dawn with a Dominator, and instead of pinning her, she tags in Ginny, who then gets the pin. And that is how Ginny and Jazzy Gabert are going to work from now on until Ginny wins the title. Ginny will do no work, Gabert will do it all, and then Ginny will pick up the scraps and profit from Gabbert's work. This will come to a head. This will climax. However, it won't be until Gabert has helped Ginny win the title. And then we're going to get a Shawn Michaels Diesel effect where Gabert gets bored and chases Ginny for the title, which she will eventually win. I have no doubt about that. Ligero is shown in the Performance Centre. He talks about when he was born with his right eye closed, that he was bullied, and that wrestling under a mask has helped him overcome shyness. This is accompanied with highlights of his NXT UK career, and I mean, it's nice. It's nice, but it doesn't really do anything for Ligero. It doesn't lead into anything. And it's just there to fill a bit of time. Kenny Williams is on media duties earlier in the day. It's always earlier in the fucking day. Never earlier in the week. Always earlier in the day. He's basically asked about Noam Dar. Noam Dar's conduct in matches recently with Mark Andrews. And Kenny Williams, he just sorts of laughs it off. He compares Noam Dar to that one friend in a group of friends that's a bit of a dick, but you like him anyway. And though he doesn't make much of it, and he says that the way Noam Dar is acting isn't going to stop him from being successful, basically. Be prepared for this feud to escalate pretty quickly over the next few weeks. Ilya Dragunov versus Joseph Connors was exactly what you'd expect it to be. It was an exhibition match for Dragunov. Connors got some stuff in. He tries to bait Dragunov from the beginning. Doesn't really work. Connors gets a nice sunset bomb into the corner. And that's basically all he does. That's basically all he can do now. Dragunov impresses here. Nice jumping senton and jumping enziguri combo. He turns a single leg takedown into a step over knee lift. and a slingshot flatliner. He counters that into a Death Valley driver into the corner. Very nicely done. And Dragunov wins with the torpedo Moscow. The quality in this match is only really in the last few minutes. I think this goes 3 to 4 minutes. The last minute of this is very, very good indeed. And I still don't know why they're pushing Joseph Connors as they are. This wasn't the match to push Dragunov into the main event, as we speculated on last time. I don't know if that will happen within the next 6 months. I have to be honest. With Walter and Imperium on top, with Jordan Devlin simmering under the surface, with Travis Banks still in the title picture. Walter versus Dave Mastiff must be on the way at some point. Walter will be the man to end Dave Mastiff's winning streak. I'm sure of that. I just don't see where Ilya Dragunov fits in. He might be the man to take down Walter in the end, but right now he's just a star they've signed to keep him out of AEW's hands or to keep him from going anywhere else. Toni Storm is on media duties, and if I'm not mistaken, she's very much turning into Gollum from Lord of the Rings. Not looks, she is a beautiful, beautiful woman. Hot as fuck. Hot as holy hell. But she's now developing this new character where she calls the Women's Championship the Shiny Shiny, and she laughs and sort of Gollums away through an interview, and it's much, much better than what she's been doing. I've had gripes with Toni Storm over the last few weeks with her false laughter in interviews and her fake expressions and the fact that she seems to just be forcing it. This, however, much, much better. The interview focuses around what Kaylee Ray had to say about her, and Toni Storm says if Kaylee Ray wants some Toni time, then she will gladly give her some. This has to be the best promo and the best Toni Storm has been on the mic since the beginning of NXT UK, and I hope this character and this unhinged side to her continues because it's very good and it's very, very attractive. Keeping on the subject of the NXT UK women's roster, we get a graphic which announces a number one contenders battle royal at the Download Festival in episode 48. That will consist of Piper Niven, Killer Kelly, Candy Floss, Ginny, Nina Samuels, Isla Dawn, Rhea Ripley, Xia Brookside, Kaylee Ray, and Jazzy Gabbert. Next up, instead of more wrestling on a wrestling show, I know what we're thinking, we get a long, and I mean a long, video package thing highlighting Travis Banks' journey to NXT UK and his journey to victory in the Fatal 4-Way match in episode 46. I'm not going to go through it all. It goes from Royal Albert Hall to present, takes in his injuries, takes in his hopes, his dreams, his disappointments, and you can go and watch it for yourself because there's no way I'm reading all through this again. It was bad enough having to write it all out word for word. It does, however, paint him as the journeyman, as the underdog, as the man you want to get behind. And like I said last week, this is the Travis Banks we should have had from 2018 in the Royal Albert Hall. That he's just getting there now, I see that as progress from where he's been. The Hunt storm out of a trainer's room in the UKPC, grunting and growling. Hitchman grabs the camera, shouts Gallus next week, and then Primate ends with the Hunt is on, and they throw the camera down. That is as good as a challenge to Gallus, which is accepted for download. The main event of episode 47 is British Strong Style versus Imperium 6-man tag team match. And even though this is Scotland and Pete Dunne beat Joe Coffey in Blackpool, Massive reaction for Pete Dunne as he comes out. It goes to prove that he's just a bigger star without the title than he was with it. I'd still prefer him to have it. This was a great match. Good technical work, a fast pace, logic as well. Pete Dunne goes straight after Fabian Eichner. Mustache Mountain hit Wastelands and Senton on Barthel. Walter and Trent Seven have a little tete-a-tete with chops. Both Red Raw by the end. Trent Seven plays the punch bag as he usually does to set up the hot tag. Walter counters a 7 stars lariat with a lovely inverted hook German suplex. Pete Dunne versus Walter is of course electric, as it always is and has been, twice before. Pete Dunne rallies Walter with everything he's got, and Walter, honestly, he looks like he's no longer capable of beating Pete Dunne on his own. He tries to shy away from it. Pete Dunne looks like the better man, the better wrestler. He looks like he's still coming for Walter's UK title, which, as of now, I'm convinced will be the main event of TakeOver Cardiff. Tyler Bate is amazing here. His offense and selling are second to none. There's a lovely dramatic pin on Bate after a Fabian Eichner brainbuster that looked absolutely wicked. Pete Dunne just makes the save, and I mean just, literally a cunt's hair away from not making it at all. Nice backstabber, double stomp by Eichner and Barthel. And towards the end of this match, it's just all go. You literally blink and you'll miss it. If you've not seen this yet and you're going to watch it, matchsticks under the eyelids because you will miss something. A bitter end corkscrew moonsault on Marcel Barthel, which looks absolutely brilliant. Pete Dunne and Walter take each other out of the match, and then down comes a masked star. Referee bump, and Alexander Wolf peels off the hood and the mask, reveals himself to be the 4th man in Imperium, hits Tyler Bate with a massive sit-out powerbomb, and Marcel Barthel pins Bate for the win. Imperium beat British Strong Style. That is not the end of this feud. There is more to come in the coming weeks. We will cover that in next month's Omnibus review because it hasn't happened yet as I record this. And all of 4 of Imperium stand together to pose as the episode goes off the air. Episode 47 is decent in the ring. Opening match, it plays off the storyline well. It's not much to look at, I'll be honest. Dragunov versus Connors is probably the best match Connors has had since his match with Ligero several months ago. And of course, the main event is as excellent as you would expect it to be. I would highly recommend this episode if you can sit through the whole Travis Banks video thing. If not, skip it, go to the matches, and solid episode of NXT UK. When we come back, episode 48 and 49, I don't know what Travis is going to fill this with.
Jimmy Mars.
Let's crack on with this. You've all got homes to go to, work to get done, better things to do than listen to me drone and ramble on for what seems like an ice age. NXT UK episode 46, the first episode from the Download Festival, began with a recap of British Strong Style versus Imperium from last week, and then immediately switched to a hot Download crowd who are pissed out of their face on beer. The set does remind of NXT UK's time in New York and in Phoenix, but much better. It is a tent. If you saw the qualifiers from last year for the championship tournament from the Download Festival, it's very much the same as that, only they have actually bothered to curtain off the rest of the Download Festival so you can't see it, so there's no distractions. It's a very nice setting and it actually aids NXT UK's production values, in my opinion. And do you know what? I actually do hope it becomes a staple of NXT UK every year, because I very much enjoy it being taken out of the arenas and into a setting that's much more friendly and close. Anyway, we are taken to commentary, which is not Vic Joseph and Nigel McGuinness. It is actually Vic Joseph and Aidan English, who is taking place of Nigel McGuinness. They make the excuse that Download Festival isn't Nigel McGuinness's cup of tea. However, he was actually on NXT duty, who were recording the night before and the same night as the NXT UK tapings. So he couldn't be in two places at once. Cassius Ohno versus Kenny Williams opens this episode. As good as you can expect from both men. Cassius Ohno is solid, he's strong. He works over the right elbow and shoulder of Kenny Williams. Kenny Williams battles back with a standing head scissors to break. And this is where the match didn't make much sense. Williams tried his best to out-wrestle Cassius Ohno. He's not as good a wrestler as Cassius Ohno, I have to say. But Kenny Williams did stand out in this match when he stuck to his own lane and did what he does best. He stopped trying to out-wrestle Cassius Ohno, and he started to use his athleticism and his high-flying to counter Cassius Ohno's technical abilities, which looked very good. There was a leapfrog into a roll-up from Williams, some absolutely great reversals, but Ohno wins with the Dream Crusher to the back of the head as he pushes Williams through the ropes, hangs him out to dry, clocks him, done. The end felt a bit odd. Ohno just stood there for a while, just looking at Kenny Williams' his prone body. That looked a little bit iffy. But I've put down here it's back to the drawing board, back to square one for Kenny Williams without Amir Jordan. But what's to come in this episode and episode 49, I think he's going to be alright, you know. Imperium interrupt Cassius Ohno as he's walking back to the dressing room. They all come out in matching tracksuits, names and the flag of where they were born sewn upon their breast. Very nice. And reminds of a watered down version of Ringkampf, but that's what they're after all. This is an absolutely hideous segment, and I mean that wholeheartedly. There's not one thing I can pick out of this that's any good at all, simply because they let all four men speak and only Marcel Barthel sounds remotely decent on the mic. Fabian Eichner, Alexander Wolf, and especially Walter should never be allowed near a microphone ever again. Horrendous. Their pidgin English, the way they pronounce words, their timing on the mic, it just all falls apart. Walter should be the big bad silent giant who just destroys you. He shouldn't be allowed to talk. Imperium need a manager. They need a manager quickly. They need a manager who can talk for them, a Jim Cornette or a Paul Heyman, because they can't keep doing this. It's killing their image, if anything. They talk about how they saw off Pete Dunne, and then we get on to the issue, the subject of Travis Banks, who then comes out to save this segment, but ultimately ends up ruining it. Because Travis Banks, as seasoned and as good as you may think he is on the mic, actually ends up forgetting most of his lines. And though he gets in the important stuff about how he's worked for years for this opportunity, and Walter will need to bring everything next week to beat him, even NXT UK's production truck couldn't make this look good in editing. It seems like they cut away too soon. Like there was more for Travis Banks to say, but they had to cut this away too soon because Travis Banks looked lost out there. He looked like a deer in the headlights, and he needed someone desperately to come out and save him. Thank God the production was there for him. Otherwise, I'm convinced he'd have just stood there and possibly cried. Awful, awful segment. Noam Dar is outside at the Download Festival, which would usually be backstage if we were in an arena, but we're not. He's stood in his waterproofs, on the phone to his mother, in between the static caravan type things that the wrestlers are using for the locker rooms. He's interrupted by this unseen reporter, who pulls him up on fans' claims that he's been taking a dive in matches and not playing fair. He seems offended by this to begin with, and then he sort of tails off when he sees Kenny Williams going back to his static trailer. Williams looks beat from his match with Cassius Ohno at the beginning of the show. Dar sort of makes fun of him. He mocks him a little bit, and then he offers to take him under his wing to make him great again. Kenny Williams rejects it, and he basically tells Noam Dar that if he doesn't stop, then his arm or his wing will be as broken as his knee was. It's a nice little segment. It builds up the Noam Dar Kenny Williams feud, which is on its way, and I am hoping this turns into a tag team because neither man have anything to do in NXT UK. They're certainly not getting anywhere near the strap. There's no mid-card title for them to feud over just yet. So I think pairing them together as a heel team, having Williams turn on Amir Jordan when he returns from injury, would be a nice way to go about this. Just think how good they would be as a Scottish heel tag team. You could even have them join Gallus if that's what you wanted to do, but just give them a purpose, because right now they're too talented to just wallow in the mid-card, and I'm pretty sure Noam Dar isn't leaving 205 Live and moving back to the UK just to do nothing. The Hunt versus Gallus is up next. It's a standard tag team match. I hoped it would be better, because Wolfgang, even though he means little to the NXT UK roster now, he's still a good talent. Mark Coffey's got it. The Hunt are very, very good. One of my favourite tag teams in WWE today. It starts off very well with a big four-man brawl. The Hunt are relentless. They chase down Gallus with double suicide dives, and then it sort of goes downhill for them. Wolfgang takes control, and then there's just this big period in the middle of the match, and the match isn't longer than 4 or 5 minutes, and yet a large portion of that is dedicated to rest holds and working over wild boar. Again, like I said time and time again, that's fine if you're doing a 15-20 minute match and you need to tell the story of wearing down your opponent. But in a 5-minute match, it halts it, and it makes it look stale, unfortunately. The pace does pick up again when Primate comes in. He's definitely the Tyler Bate of the team for hot tags, is Jay Melrose. The problem is that when it happens, the ending of the match is close. It's like Mustache Mountain. When Tyler Bate gets that hot tag, you've got maybe 3 minutes left of the match, because there's absolutely no point in putting a hot tag bang in the middle of the bout. It's there to build up the home straight, if you like. Gallus win this with a pop-up power slam standing enziguri combo, and Joe Coffey is down to attack the Hunt, and Dave Mastiff makes the save. That is leading to a 6-man tag team match between the two, and I do believe a singles feud between Dave Mastiff and Joe Coffey. It would make sense that the winner would become the new number 1 contender to the WWE United Kingdom Championship. With that said, I then believe Dave Mastiff will beat Joe Coffey, possibly at TakeOver Cardiff, beat Walter's next challenger, and that's where Dave Mastiff's winning streak will come to an end. Me and Travis talked about this, actually, and we both believe Dave Mastiff versus Walter will not be very good at all for various reasons. I do worry for Dave Mastiff what happens after Walter's finished with him. He's been the monster of NXT UK, if you like, since October 2018. But now Walter's here, they're going to lose interest in him. And I just don't see where he goes or what's left for him after that streak comes to an end. As far as Gallus go, I have to say that the sooner it's just the Coffey brothers in tag team action and not Wolfgang and Mark Coffey, the better. I don't see the chemistry between Wolfgang and Mark Coffey. They're just not interesting as a duo, and it's much better with Mark and Joe. Radzi is backstage with Mustache Mountain. He informs them that they have an NXT UK Tag Team Championship shot against Grizzled Young Veterans in 2 weeks' time. And that's basically it. As soon as he announces that, it's a massive come down. Because this match was... It was basically the match that everyone was waiting on for TakeOver, UK TakeOver 2. And now they're giving us it on television. So thanks for that, WWE. What exactly have I paid out to see on August the 31st? I know where this is going because I've read the spoilers. I have to read the spoilers for the book in case anything happens that they edit out and I need to put in. But I will not spoil it for you. We will review where the Tag Team Championship division and indeed the NXT UK Tag Team Championship scene is going in next month's Omnibus. Because it's about to take a very intriguing turn. Let's just say that. Main event time. And it is the women's number one contenders battle royal. Featuring everyone I told you before, plus two that we've never seen before. In case you were wondering who they were, their names were Rio and Kanji. They are independent wrestlers. Obviously, everyone who comes to NXT UK is on the UK indie scene somewhere. They, I am reliably informed, were two of the tryouts from the UK Performance Centre tryout a couple of weeks ago. So impressive, apparently, were they, that they have been signed to a lower tier contract. And here they were. They weren't greatly impressive in this match, I have to say. What was even less impressive than them two was that Xia Brookside, Ginny and Jazzy Gabbert got their own entrances. Then we cut to a break, and when we come back, the ring was full of everyone. Candy Floss was there, Killer Kelly, Isla Dawn, and Nina Samuels. The same Nina Samuels who was built up for weeks and weeks as number one contender to Toni Storm and the Women's Championship, who had the machine put behind her, who didn't admittedly do very well, and who doesn't even get an entrance here. So all of that for nothing. Absolute waste of time. She has fallen back to the bottom of the ladder, and I don't expect another Nina Samuels push or storyline, unless they're going to pair her with Ginny as they did in Progress for a very long time. There's a nice stare down here between Piper Niven and Jazzy Gabbert. A great reception for Rhea Ripley. Like, they absolutely loved her at the Download Festival, but then it's her kind of crowd. Punk rockers, mosh pitters. I'm pretending I know what I'm talking about when I really don't. Music isn't my scene. So I will be quiet and move on. We start off the Battle Royal straight out the gate. Jazzy Gabbert eliminates Rio and Kanji. Hits Candy Floss with a Dominator. But again, a little peek into the Ginny-Jazzy Gabbert relationship here. Ginny stops Gabbert eliminating Candy Floss and eliminates her herself. In the opposite corner, Xia Brookside sends Kaylee Ray through the ropes with a assisted head scissors. Bear that in mind, it will come back to haunt Xia Brookside at the end of the bout. We then get a nice little delve into the Xia Brookside Ginny storyline as Piper Niven lifts Jazzy Gabbert over the top rope and onto the apron. Xia Brookside hits her with a baseball slide into the ankles, sends her crashing to the floor, eliminates Jazzy Gabbert. Very impressively done. She then eliminates Ginny after a bit of a to-do. Ginny goes over the top, Gabbett catches her, puts her back in the ring. Ginny then charges at Xia Brookside, who backdrops her onto the apron, forearm to the face, eliminated. Xia Brookside got a very big push in this match by being allowed to eliminate both of her rivals. Rivals who are bigger and more important than her in NXT UK's hierarchy, I have to say. So that was very well done. Rhea Ripley eliminates Killer Kelly and Isla Dawn. Piper Niven eliminates Nina Samuels like she's nothing. Charming. Thanks for letting us invest in that, WWE. Niven and Ripley fight. And then we get the spot of the match. Ripley and Niven both on the apron. They're duking it out. Xia Brookside drop kicks Rhea Ripley from the apron, eliminating her. But on her way down, Ripley grabs a handful of Piper Niven's hair and pulls her with her, eliminating her too. Xia Brookside thinks she's won the match. The fans think she's won the match. Only for Kaylee Ray to sneak back in and eliminate Xia Brookside to win and become your new number one contender to the NXT UK Women's Championship. The end has been done 1,000 times, and this was very, very sloppy in places. But what it had going for it is it worked off the established feuds well. It worked off everything we've seen in the past few weeks well. It didn't ignore it. Xia Brookside looked like an absolute star. And what was so encouraging was that when the download crowd thought she won, she got one of the best reactions I've heard in months for a winner. So, the groundwork is there with Xia Brookside. WWE must now build on it in the next year, because she could be the Daniel Bryan, the underdog babyface. She could be NXT Women's Champion by this time next year if they build her properly. It now looks like we are heading for Toni Storm versus Kaylee Ray at TakeOver, because using logic, why would Kaylee Ray choose any other time to cash in that title shot? It makes no sense, knowing that you could have a premiere spot on a massive, massive pay-per-view. You wouldn't cash in on, a normal TV episode. It makes no sense. And that is NXT UK episode 48. And here we are on the home stretch. We've made it this far. I hope you stick with me for this one last small review. NXT UK episode 49 began with Travis Banks in one of the static cabins earlier in the day, preparing for his main event match against Walter, which will of course see out this review, see out this episode. He says he knows he's the underdog against Walter, but when Walter beat Pete Dunne, he boasted that he was prepared, and tonight the Kiwi Buzzsaw is prepared too. Thankfully, this was much, much better than his trashy promo in episode 48. Mark Andrews versus Joseph Connors opens the episode. It's a nice, fast start by Mark Andrews. It's almost like they've taken the shackles of the tag team with Flash Morgan Webster off of him, and now he looks free. And that's how it came across. He looked like, the world had been removed from his shoulders. Connors has some solid stuff here, as much as I hate to admit it. Even though he botches the slingshot flatliner, which looks very awkward. Andrews' Northern Lights suplex roll through, very nice, as is the suicide dive which follows. The series of moves which leads into the buckle bomb sunset flip deserves a round of applause. Connors' suplex face buster always looks good, and I don't know how he doesn't kill someone doing it, but all credit to him for that. And Mark Andrews wins with the fall to pieces shooting star press. And can you believe it? He's actually won a match in NXT UK. It's been a while. It has been a while since Mark Andrews won a match in NXT UK, but by God, he did it. I don't expect this to lead into a massive push for him. I don't expect it to go anywhere. And if anything, he's looking like the Kofi Kingston of NXT UK, not quite doing anything of much until an opening that was never meant to be his appears at some point. Imperium are shown backstage as Walter prepares to defend the United Kingdom Championship against Travis Banks later. The Hunt are shown outside at the Download Festival, snarling, shouting, banging on the walls that have been erected. And I have to say, the last time I saw walls like that was in The Walking Dead, when they were in, I think it was Alexandria, and they directed them big walls around it. Looked very reminiscent of that. Dave Mastiff approaches them. He riles them up. He says, are you going to let the Hunt become the hunted? Are you going to let Gallus do whatever they want to you? They scream at each other, and then they all walk away. It's very simple. Probably best. Grizzled young veterans are out again, and you can hear the enthusiasm ooze through my being. Again, I'm not going into it. It's a long promo. By the time I copied it out word for word, it came out at half A4 page. In fact, over half A4 page. I'd say a good majority of it. It was basically that they resent having to defend their championships in a field, and they don't much like the choice of music that is going on at the Download Festival. That's basically it. They say a little bit about Moustache Mountain in here, but there's nothing really to build the match. It's just them pissing off the Download crowd who eat it up. They're in good spirits, they eat it up, and it is what it is. We get a highlight package for Piper Niven and Rhea Ripley, which goes from Niven's debut in Coventry to, all of their back and forth, all of their slagging each other off, blah-de-blah-de-blah. Niven called Ripley a bully. Ripley says she's not a bully, she just likes putting people in their place, which is a great line. And it hypes their match, which is coming in episode 50, which we will cover for you in next month's Omnibus. Killer Kelly versus Xia Brookside is a very, very short match. It is built off of Kelly leaving Xia Brookside high and dry during Jazzy Gabbert's debut several weeks prior. Nothing really much to shout about here. Kelly still doesn't seem like a roster member. She's just like a visitor. She doesn't win. They're not booking her to win. They're not taking her seriously at all, which is a shame because she's a little diamond in the ring, but they're just using her to put other people over. Xia Brookside, refreshingly, is all business. Smoking hot, but all business. She's straight to work with right hands. Killer Kelly hits a lovely deadlift German suplex. Works over the arms and the eyes, quite brutally, actually. Xia Brookside with a lovely tilt-a-whirl head scissors, and then Ginny and Jazzy Gabbert come out onto the stage, distract Xia Brookside for a few seconds, they leave, and then Brookside hits a code breaker for the victory. It was a flat end. We haven't said that about NXT UK for a while, that it's had, some of these matches have had flat ends, because they haven't really. They've got better at booking matches to flow and not stall at the end. However, this was a flat end, and it was a match that it went nowhere really, and it didn't even have any real story about it. It just existed to wrap up a loose end. Gollum, or should I say Tony Storm, is outside on media duties. She is asked about Kaylee Ray again, that Kaylee Ray won the Women's Battle Royal last week, and now has a championship match at a time of her choosing. She's asked for her thoughts. She ums and ahs about it. She does her usual stick and says that it doesn't matter when Kaylee Ray chooses to cash in the title shot, because she's ready all the time. And it's literally Tony time all the time. I know every hot-blooded man watching this wouldn't mind a bit of Tony time now and again. Noam Dar versus Ligero is a surprise hit here, actually. This is just thrown on with no build to it, no real care to it at all. It exists for entertaining the fans and filling up I think it was 8 minutes, 9 minutes, somewhere between the 8 and 10 minute mark of television time. Yeah, it turned out to be a very, very good little match. Noam Dar, lovely bit at the beginning where Noam Dar baits Ligero with his jacket like a bull. Love that bit. Ligero, for some reason, is wearing horned shoulder pads to wrestling. They do not look good. He needs to take them off ASAP. Let's all go back and forth to start with. Noam Dar, holds the mask, hooks it for a headlock for the advantage. Kenny Williams saunters out with a chair to sit at ringside. This gives the match a little bit of, is Kenny Williams going to take up Noam Dar's offer from last week of, going under his wing and learning a bit more about how to be successful? Is he going to turn heel on Ligero? That would be an interesting feud between the two. But he just sits there for a while at ringside. The match continues. Ligero turns Noam Dar inside out on a clothesline. Some lovely fluid counters. Back and forth it goes. Noam Dar with a nice fisherman's buster. Don't know where he pulled that out of. Ligero counters the Nova Roller. And they actually look like they're taking each other to the limit. They do the maximum amount with the near 10 minutes they're afforded. And then Noam Dar plays on the knee injury. And it's like a Scottish Eddie Guerrero. It's like Eddie Guerrero has been born again. Noam Dar crumbles to the floor, clutching his knee. The referee tries to hold off Ligero, and while his back's turned, Noam Dar looks at Kenny Williams and ushers him to give him the chair. Lovely. It's very, very, very well done. Kenny Williams does give him the chair, but then holds on to it and yanks it out of his hands. And Ligero rolls up Noam Dar with a wheelbarrow cradle for the victory. Again, this plays on the Noam Dar Kenny Williams storyline, which is what it basically existed for. It would have probably been much more effective after the taunting had Kenny Williams just blasted Noam Dar with the chair. But I assume we're coming to a breaking point for Kenny Williams here. Noam Dar is just as wonderful as always. I wish they'd make more of him. And I can't wait to see where this goes in the future. I would be thrilled if this ends up in a match at TakeOver Cardiff. Because these two, given 15-20 minutes, shackles off, they could tear the house down. I would love to see that. We get a recap of the mess that was Travis Banks and Imperium's promo last week. Less said about that, the better. And then we see a tale of the tape for the main event, which is next. Walter versus Travis Banks. Surprisingly, actually, it's the main event of just a normal episode, when this absolutely should have been built over 2 months to take place at TakeOver. This is given, shockingly, just short of 9 minutes for a championship match featuring, two of the best wrestlers in the world. Just under 9 minutes. It defies absolute belief. Sadly, this is already a foregone conclusion. No one believed Walter would lose the title already. Why would he? He's just got his own faction. He's just seen off, or so he thinks, Pete Dunne. Why would he lose on a random episode of NXT UK at the Download Festival in front of, less fans than they've ever had before? It just makes no sense. Still, the match went on. Travis Banks did his best at the beginning to duck the chops. He went with the kicks to the leg to bring Walter down to size. Walter stood on Travis Banks on the top rope, choked him over the summit. Looked very, very good. Boot to the face almost knocked Travis Banks the fuck out. It almost knocked his head off his shoulders. Walter dominates for large portions of this. Before Banks rallies back with more kicks to the leg. But, he takes Walter down with a flurry of kicks, but illogically allows him to get back up. It's almost as if Walter's down and Travis Banks just sits there and waits for him to get back up. It makes no sense at all. Massive logic gap there. There's a nice running knee by Travis Banks, which connects well. Banks counters Walter's running front drop kick and hits a coup de grace, which is pitch perfect. Nice near fall off of that. Walter blocks a slice of heaven, turns it into a Boston Crab. Second slice of heaven connects, but Walter rolls to the apron to prevent a pinfall. Travis Banks drop kicks him from the apron into the barricade, nails a suicide dive, but Walter counters with an apron powerbomb and hits his powerbomb for the victory. This was good. 10 minutes longer, it would have been an absolute classic. It needed a better audience. As good as the audience at Download were, it needed a better, bigger, more invested audience and a bigger stage. And as I said, this should have been built for TakeOver Cardiff. Episode 49, it was a hit. I couldn't find much wrong with it. Andrews versus Connors was solid. Noam Dar versus Ligero was arguably one of the best matches on the card. The main event was very, very good indeed, despite the fact it should have been better. The only downside was Killer Kelly versus Xia Brookside, but the outcome of that is Xia Brookside is getting pushed. So I think we can reserve the moaning until we see how that pans out. I would recommend you go back and watch this. Where Travis Banks goes now, I have no idea. He's again lost every big feud that he's been involved in. Whether he does get another shot at TakeOver instead of Pete Dunne, or whether he moves on to something better. Whatever he moves on to now, he's got to win. Absolutely got to win. There's no choice. And that is all. That is our NXT UK Omnibus for the month of June. I will be back in 4 weeks' time with episodes 50 to 54. And that sounded like a question because I was working it out in my head. But yeah, episodes 50 to 54. Travis may join us, he may not, depend on scheduling conflicts. We will be back together on the next retro review, which we will decide on in the next few days. Keep your eyes on our Twitter for that announcement. And thank you very much for watching. We will see you very, very shortly. Until then, you can find us on Twitter. Me at The Perfect Tenant. Travis at The Hibiki TMD. You can buy our merchandise, the official Union Smack shirt, the official Hibiki TMD shirt, the official Reset Button shirt, my book, The Undertaker, A Trip Down Death Valley, from unionsmack.bigcartel.com. And of course, stick with the channel for all the best retro gaming reviews, retro gaming news, Hibiki Pro, Hibiki Live, Hibiki Quickie, Hibiki Plays, Hibiki Honours, Hibiki everything. He's a man of many trades, is Travis. Don't forget to check out his Fire Pro World Hot Gobbler tournament, which is absolutely brilliant. I am very much enjoying it, as I am sure you will. Also, do not forget the Union Smack Hall of Fame, which will be coming your way in a few weeks' time, where we will be inducting the gentleman, Chris Adams. But as you can hear, I'm as hoarse as fuck, my voice is going, and all that's left to say is thank you very much for watching. Cheerio, mates.